How have you been using AI in your schools across North Anglia Progress?
It's actually interesting because I would say I'm personally an early adopter, or I was an early, I'm usually the person with the newest iPhone and let's try this. And if I've just made the move from X to Blue Sky in social media because, that's the new shiny thing. I personally think it's a bit better, but, that's obviously subjective. AI, I've been a little bit slow to get into. I think like most people, I did the play with ChatGPT a couple of years ago and, please write a love poem for my wife. And then my wife pointed out I'd never done that before, so it was clearly not my work.
It's clearly not your
and all
work.
the rest of it. But what I have started to see is organisations like the IB embracing AI and saying, well, look, this is something we've got to we can't ban it, we've got to work with it. It's obviously a great tool, whether that's a great summarizer, whether that's a great research tool or whatever it would be. And the schools, they have embraced AI in that spirit. I mean, it's really interesting. About 2 years ago, I wrote to all the schools asking how we were using AI. And all the schools wrote back to me explaining how they were stopping AI. I asked the same question a year later, and I got the answer I was looking for. In terms of, we're using it for this, we're using it for that. Partly administration, partly communication. And obviously a lot in the teaching and learning. And platforms such as Coschool that have come along. The reason I'm a big fan of platforms like Coschool is because they're working with teachers to make sure it's supporting the work that they do. It's not replacing the teachers. As going back to what I was saying earlier, it's not saying we will not need teachers in the future. It's saying, look, here's something that can help you personalise your education. So you're almost hitting all three of my points earlier. You're hitting the core point of a teacher, which is to engage and infuse, the right use of technology as a tool, and that personalisation, because we now know much more about how students learn. And I think that will be, that'll be the direction that we're going in, led by platforms such as Coschool. So I think that write a poem for your wife, help me write a complaint letter to British Airways, those sorts of things will come and go, I think, and I think I can spot those when I get them. I say to my colleagues, I like brevity. So, please don't stick something in ChatGPT to make it all look like a work of Shakespeare. I just want the bullet points, So, of course, I can then use AI to then turn their prose back into bullet points. But that sort of defeats the object of where they started. But no, I think it's an exciting thing. I was going around 2 years ago saying AI is a fad, and I was laughed at by everybody. And until I explained what I meant. What I meant was what I've just said. The core, good, sustainable uses of the technology will come out of this, and the periphery and the fads will drop away. And it's happened in every bit of technology, hardware or software. Certainly in the last 30 years that I've come along. There's all sorts of examples of things that have come and gone away again, and then there's things that have kept with us. Some of the most powerful tools I find, in terms of technology, are ones that allow collaboration. So, something as simple as Teams or SharePoint or Google the Google Suite, within their framework. They're just really powerful, and they of course are now also enhanced by AI. I think sometimes in the world of technology we rush to the shiny new things, and in fact it's the simple stuff, or the applications of simple stuff, or the adding on to the simple stuff that actually makes the impact day in, day out. It's quite sad, when I'm going back to the question you asked me earlier, when I'm feeling a little bit office bound, a little bit like, my job is to sit here, on my computer plodding away, I'm still 99% of the time using Excel and Word, which is not changed in 25 years. Yes, it looks much nicer, and yes, it's quicker, and yes, I can now share it directly with other people and collaborate and everything I said just now. But it is still basically the same thing. So yeah, I think I'm cautiously, more than cautiously optimistic that we'll find the right route, and platforms such as Coschool will go in the right direction because they're still supporting the teacher to do their core role.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense, Chris. And as you rightly said, that there's a lot of buzz around it because we like to chase that shiny object. But I think now the dust is settling and we are seeing real business case emerging, real scalable solutions being implemented using AI across industries, including education. And these, EdTech companies like Coschool, they play a very important role because schools can't do everything on their own. They need support in terms of these tech players who can help them implement technology in a better way and in a seamless way. So, glad that you found that mix and, it's helping you in implementing technology and empowering your teachers. So teachers remain at the heart of education and they're empowered to deliver a more engaged and personalized education to their students. So I think that makes perfect sense.
I think it's great, and I think whenever I go to an education conference or an exhibition, and as you can imagine, you get inundated with people, showing you their wares. And the first question I always ask is, well, what's the background of this organisation? And if it's come out of a set of students, and there's a couple of really good examples of this, who have come up with something while they were at school because it was helping them get through the IB or something like that. That's obviously fantastic because that's something that is proved, and there's a great bit of software that we use in all of our schools called ManageBack, and that's exactly its history. It came out of a group of students going, we need some help to manage the IB because the IB is relatively not complicated, but there are lots of moving parts to it. My second criteria is, yes, you're absolutely right. Teachers cannot do it alone, but I do want to see some evidence that they've got some teachers or somebody with an education background with that. Where I get really nervous is where you've got, a large organisation that's just gone, I see, there's a new market, we can do that, And I say, going back to Coschool, not to labour that point too much, but they've got somebody who's got lifelong interest in working in education, working with people who have been teaching and being more directly involved, and that is for me is the best combination, or at least the second best combination after my interested student model I said earlier. So.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. And if you have founders who have a good grounding in understanding the education space because of their experience, that makes the best combination of any EdTech company in this space, working with schools. Sure. Especially because schools is a different, being altogether. It's a different body, and it needs an understanding how they operate to be able to serve them. So that makes perfect sense.